As I'm sure you're aware, the constant fires are ravaging Southern California and Los Angeles, and thousands of people have been displaced, and thousands of square feet of the city have been utterly decimated. So I've put some links in my bio to support in any way that we can. Hello, my beautiful, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mitch. I use this channel to talk to myself with you in hopes that we can both grow and become better in whatever it is we're trying to do. So, one of my favorite actors ever, surprisingly, it's not what am I talking about? It's not surprising at all. He's incredible. It's Henry Winkler, the Fonz, Arrested Development, and Barry. I do this thing, like I'm sure you do as well, that when I fall in love with an actor for their ability or fall in love with an actor, I then just dive in and watch everything I can of theirs, including interviews and podcasts. And so I was listening to this podcast of Henry Winkler, and he talks a lot about getting out of your own way. I remember when I was first listening to him, when I was in my 20s and listening to this, it was like, yeah, I guess I like understood what he meant in theory, but there was always that piece of me that was like, what is that? What are you talking about? And so now that I'm getting older, not by much, spare me, it's starting to really ring true of what that means of getting out of your own way, and how I thought it would just be this one thing and this one time of, aha, I have gotten out of my way and now it's smooth sailing for the rest of my life. And that's not true. My brain is just bouncing all over the place because there's this other theater person, a mentor, I may even say. His name is Stephen Wang, and I was fortunate enough to take one of his workshops along with three of the most incredible educators that I've ever worked with, Erica Fay, Wendy Vanden Heuvel, and Raina von Waldenberg. And in this workshop, we were exploring some of the theatrical practices of this Polish theater maker named Jerzy Grotowski. Long-winded explanation to get to this point of the language we would use is containers. And containers, barriers, whatever you want to call it, it's these parameters that we want to exist inside of in order to propel our art forward or propel ourselves inside of these containers. And these containers will always exist inside of everything. To be formless and shapeless like water, to quote Bruce Lee, is the spirit, but the body and the world and so much of the circumstance is the container. And so whenever you break out of a container, you then realize you're in a larger container or in a different container. And so that didn't really stick until, I lived a little bit more life and realizing that getting out of my way is a lifelong pursuit, because there's always going to be something that will prevent me. And even this is a container, or even this is getting in my own way by thinking I'm always going to be in my way, or there's always going to be a next step to getting out of my own way. It's just constantly knocking down a wall to then see another wall and another wall and another wall. But Henry Winkler says, your mind knows very little, but your instinct knows everything. And so when it comes to getting out of my own way, I think it's less of a straight line, right? Like it's not so much of a, here's a wall, pff, knock it down, straight line, boom, there's another wall, pff, knock it down, and then another wall. I think it's a little bit more winding and sort of snakes through life, and maybe getting out of these ways is sometimes there are walls in my life or walls inside of me that are very difficult to knock down. It will take considerable effort, to knock down or are permanent, walls that will always be there. And because something impedes me, it doesn't mean it's bad. So these walls that exist for me, I don't think are bad things, you know? Maybe it's more of recognizing the heaviness of whatever wall or whatever barrier is in front of me. And in that moment, am I strong to push that wall or break through that wall? Or am I agile to maneuver to a different wall or maneuver away from this particular path that's then locked down to then move to something else? It's like, I'm just describing a maze. Oh my God. But I think to fight against that metaphor of the maze, a maze can be easy to get lost in because we just turn and turn and turn until we are looking for the way out. And I think that with life, there is no way out. It's always going to be, it's just life, right? We live this life right up until the exact second that we don't. And then whatever you believe, it's either end of the road there, or we're on to the next journey, or we go up, we go back, and then we do it all again. So, regardless of the end or the next part, life is not this maze that we get lost in. I think we're able to sort of, or I want to be able to track my life and look back and think, and look back and be able to remember where I've come from and where I've been. Because if I'm wanting to change, how do I expect to change when I don't know what I'm changing from? If I'm trying to become a better person, how do I know when I'm becoming a better person if I'm not aware of the kind of person I am right now? And for so long, I've always wanted to chase that idea of a good person or a better person or a different person, a different me, because whatever I was experiencing in that moment, I didn't like and didn't love. And so it's not about changing to become someone else. It's flipping the script and learning more and more and more about me so that I reveal what I've always been. Ogres have layers. Donkey! And it's like, obviously, you do any type of really quick search on meditation or mindfulness or how to stop your racing thoughts, and everything will always point to slowing down, connecting to your breath, relaxing. And the reason, okay, so the reason why to connect to the breath from a regulatory place is because when we are taking something that we have the ability to control, steer our thoughts, right? We can be intentional about what we're thinking about, and then intentionally start thinking about our physical body and specifically the things inside of our physical body that move without our thinking, our sort of involuntary systems, heartbeat, breathing, blood flow. To intentionally think about those creates this ability to be in the present moment, or at least slow down the thoughts enough. And I've experienced that. I'm far from a master of meditation by any stretch of the word. I think if I'm anything, I'm someone who's like knocked down one or two walls. So I'm like, okay, I've done that before. So I think I know how to knock down a wall or break out of a container, but I'm still in the dance or still in the game of more and more containers. And I know that for me, I've always really struggled with effort. It's been this sort of polarizing all or nothing, the in of I'm either trying so hard and you can see how hard I'm trying and that feels just like a try hard, which I don't like, or I don't try at all. And that's sad in its own respect. And I know, intellectually, I know that the path is relaxation. And not relaxation, take a warm bath, although that is nice. It's relax as in relax my grip on life, or relax my grip on this thing that I'm trying so hard to get and achieve, and to let go of that and to relax from that is where the relief comes. Because how much energy am I spending every single day just gripping on to life, or gripping on, holding on to this idea of what I'm supposed to do or who I'm supposed to be or where I think I want to go. And I don't, it's exhausting. It is. Like, after a while, if I clench my fist for 5 minutes, my hands get tired. And so I want to think about life in that way of relaxing my grip on it so that I can still work. I don't want to just relax and then, I mean, obviously, like chilling out on the beach would be really nice. And just chilling and letting life, but even that gets bored after a while. I forget where I've heard this before, but it's this idea of to go to heaven, or to go to this place where every single, in the idea of chilling out and having peace. Peace is different than, I think, like perfection or heaven or whatever you want to call it. But this idea of, if we were in a perfect place and all of this we were just perfect, everything about it was perfect, how long before we would get bored? And so I don't want to be chilling out and relaxing, because then I just get bored, but I do want to relax the grip that I'm holding on to on life. And at the same time, to push something away and to reach for it have the same distance, because it separates me from that thing. If I'm pushing away this thing that I don't want, I'm still actively pushing against it. And if I'm reaching out to this thing that I want, I'm actively reaching to get to this thing that I want. But if it's still causing the same amount of energy. It's still causing the same amount of energy expenditure. I'm still either actively thinking about pushing something away or actively reaching to get something. But what happens if I just surrender that, and surrender that sensation and that feeling of letting something go? That's that was something I had my mom's friend was a conflict resolution specialist. And so she was teaching me this lesson about conflict resolution. And it was two people pushing against each other, and the goal was to touch a wall. That was the only brief that she gave. And so it was me and my friend, and we were pushing against each other in order to touch a wall. And then after a while, she gave the proof, which is, I only asked you to touch a wall. I didn't ask you to touch that wall or that wall. And so the idea is then surrendering to then let go, to succeed, to touch the wall. Because progress isn't linear, and just move forward or move backward is irrelevant as long as the goal is achieved of touching a wall. And so this idea for me of, like, yeah, reaching out for something or pushing something away takes the same amount of energy. And so what happens if I can just let all of that go to get out of my own way? And it's still such like a psychologically confusing idea of getting out of my own way, because when is it self-preservation and when is it something else? And that's maybe the dream I have, is that I become always the more responsive and the less reactive. And so something happens to me, and I don't immediately react back to that, but something happens to me and I can breathe and let it sort of wash through me and understand what it is, so that I can respond appropriately, whatever appropriate is. Because it's like, it again, it's just, this is the episode of phrases and sayings and aphorisms. Because there was this other teacher that I had who talked about the shitty committee, Dawn and Stefan, their names, of the intrusive thoughts that we all have, just that sort of whirlwind of things that happen and we say all the time to ourselves to sort of keep us down. And that shitty committee of you can't do this, you're blah 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 blah, all that stuff. But much like reaching and pushing away have the same distance. The distance from where I am right now in my brain, in this like energistic present moment of I can do something and I can't do something, is the same distance. And so the practicum, like the practical aspect of what does getting out of your own way, or what does getting out of my own way look like and feel like, it is the thought action of shifting my view from I can't to I can. And like, oh my, we're inundated with manifestation people on social media everywhere. And I'm not even talking about the manifestation of getting everything that I want or manifesting this thing that I want so I can have it. I'm literally talking about the singular first step of shifting my perception, shifting from this to that. And maybe that's the hardest part, because it's the first internal step, and everything else after that can be easier, maybe because of the work I did now and the work I did here to do that. But I don't know. I still feel in this position. Like I still feel like I'm getting knocked back to the can'ts, not back to the won'ts, not back to the shouldn'ts. When how like to then stay here and be locked in here would be pretty great. But and maybe that's maybe that's the point. Maybe that is the point, is that it's, and maybe that's the dance. And so when all these spiritual people talk about being connected to the higher source, or being present with the world around us and realizing that we are love incarnate, and maybe this ebb and flow is not this big spiritual thing of being fully in love and then fully in hate and this sort of binary opposition, but it's just the thought action. And so I know I'm guilty of like making grandiose statements for myself and these sort of large promises of how I want to do something, and then getting lost in the sauce because I set my sights on the horizon, when it's maybe more important to just take it one shift at a time. I think that's all I got today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. We can do this. Like me, we've got this. If I can do this, you can do this. And that I know for true. That I know for certain. If I can do this, so can you. Okay? Thanks for watching. See you around.